what does the workflow look like in terms of how you're actually compressing this data, and what are the file types even? What's the standard?
ERP, the file types. So, the workflow works, as I mentioned, it starts from traditional production pipeline. So one of the key elements, and as you know, in order to create the full value chain of this technology, we acquired our partner company Parallaxter that created the point cloud format that is the basis for Vinova PresenZ. So, Tristan Salome, the VP of PresenZ technology for Vinova, is the founder that is coming from the special effects world and created this way of taking the same CG content and injecting it into a point cloud file format. Then this file format is gigantic, and it's created by rendering with traditional rendering pipelines. So it's exactly the same process that you to produce Avatar 2 in the cinema. It's just that
Okay.
instead of choosing a camera point, you choose a zone of view, what we call a zone of view, which is a volume of infinite points. You pre-render for that volume, which means you can use all the time in the world if you want 2 hours, 3 hours per frame to have the most realistic physics simulation of hair, clothes, water, you name it, and having offline ray tracing so that you have reflections, refractions, subsurface scattering so that your skin doesn't look like plastic, but it actually looks like skin, etc., etc. So all those things that make the difference between a cinematic movie and a video game that needs to do everything in 10 milliseconds. So it's a little bit challenging.
Sure. Yeah.
Then you get essentially this gigantic file that gets compressed with Vinova's point cloud compression, which is the first point cloud compressor able also to do temporal point cloud compression, and it's very efficient both computationally and bitrate wise. Made it possible to compress all this data that in principle is well over a terabit of data. When you look at the actual numbers, it's staggering. Also, because you're talking about, you need to move several billion points per second. It's actually, if you want real reality and photorealism, flashes
that's
of
what it
water.
takes.
Yeah, exactly. Because we are talking about the quality where if I put myself, as you saw, because I showed a friend of mine, and you remember, you could see the hairs in his beard, and
it was amazing.
that's kind of the type of quality that you need to get. You need to get to the level of showing a hair of a person, and that's a lot of data inherently. And that actually gets compressed, and then it needs to be real time rendered to render the point of view of the viewer, which means that what you do when you enjoy the experience is that you decompress selectively the point cloud. It's pre-rendered in terms of lighting, but what you need to do is, technically speaking, a rasterization of your point of view, which means if I'm looking at the point cloud in a certain way, I'm rasterizing that way. And again, possibly the best way to explain this concept is by showing a picture of this process that shows essentially what I was saying. So in this case, if you have this water environment of the sea, you render, in this case, a cube of points of views, which means that you pre-render all the possible points of views within that cube, looking in every direction. They are all pre-rendered, that they become a light field that gets compressed into a point cloud. And then in real time, based on where you're looking, it interpolates everything and creates the realistic motion and shows you your point of view by rasterizing the pre-rendered point cloud, which means that you have a lifelike experience because you see exactly what you would be seeing at the cinema. So the same quality that you would get in a cinematic experience, but you can look all around. You can look behind objects. You have exactly the same type of freedom that you have when you're in real life. And this means,
Incredible.
practically speaking, that again, just to make it tangible, if we look at scenes like these, you can be in there. So you can be in there with that quality at the full display
Mm,
resolution and frame rate of the latest XR devices, like the Quest
mm,
3 or Vision Pro or the coming ones
mhm,
from other companies. And this means cinematic experiences. It means music, considering
mhm,
and volu capture real people, and you can also
mhm,
render. In this case, I mentioned, I showed
mhm.
Michael Jackson, because you can do it also with dead artists, as it's
Yeah,
been done.
sure.
And then you can also showcase products in a way that is similar to brochures. That most of car advertisements and brochures nowadays are CGI graphics. So
They're rendered.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
they're
That's something
always
I
rendered.
learned not too long ago. Is
Yeah,
that almost, if not all, car ads are not the real car. They're
exactly.
rendered vehicles. I was shocked, and of course it does make sense. That's why they have full control of where the car is, what it looks like. The reflections are perfect. Like I've always wondered, like how do they do that? That's just
And that's actually the interesting thing, because sometimes I'm like, thanks to our presence, we can put you in something that is as close as possible to real reality. The truth is, it can be even better than real reality,
yeah,
precisely
yeah,
because you can be
yeah,
in
yeah.
places, choosing the lighting, choosing the situation in places.